everybody, it's Zach again at newtutorial.com. Wanted to come in and do a video. I get people asking me questions about, hey, how are we, I did a bread video not too long ago, and so they ask, how are you guys doing your bread? What kind of bread do you guys do? And so I wanted to introduce my wife. A lot of people ask questions and ask requests for her to be on some more of my videos in the kitchen. And so I wanted to introduce her and show you how we do our sourdough bread. This is what we eat on a pretty regular basis here. We don't really buy a lot of bread at the stores. And the sourdough, we haven't brought bread in a while. And so we make all of our bread here. We grind our own wheat. We use mostly rye, wheat, and probably some spelt every once in a while. And so that's how we make our bread. And I just had a friend of mine on YouTube, or it was on Facebook, or one of those social media sites, who's going to be sending us some amaranth grain to plant, and we're going to plant that here on the property and use that for grain as well. So that's going to be next year. But let's just go ahead and give you an introduction about what we're doing and how we do it. So there is...
Hi, okay, so we've been making sourdough probably for about, I think about 6 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So this starter right here doesn't really look that pretty, I know. But it's not spoiled. It has a good sour smell to it, but it doesn't smell off. And I started this starter from scratch about 6 weeks ago. And basically what you need to do is just feed it every day. So basically all it is flour and water. And it has no yeast. It has nothing in it that is in modern bread to make it rise. Just flour and water. And so basically the flour and water just collect natural yeast from the air. And I'm going to stir it down. I didn't stir it just so you could see how it looks before I stir it. I mean, you see it's kind of like syrupy. And it's okay if you have those clumps in it. The clumps dissolve. It's just that natural kind of crust that develops overnight on the starter.
And you can totally smell it. I mean, it smells like that sourdough smell. It doesn't smell bad. It just smells like sourdough bread.
And it's okay if these clumps go into the bread. Like I said, they're just going to dissolve, and you need the bread, and it's no big deal. I mean, somebody who's not used to it would be like, I'm not putting that in my whatever, but... I mean, you can see, it's just like a batter, kind of a really thin batter kind of consistency. Anyway, it's just flour and water, and we grind our flour. I use rye flour. I got the recipe from this Nourishing Traditions cookbook. Some of you may be familiar with the Weston A. Price Foundation. And basically what they do is teach the old methods of preparing food and what to eat and not to eat. They do not eat clean, however. So I'm not advocating you eat everything in this cookbook because they do not eat clean. They do not know about that.
It is a pretty good wealth of knowledge.
Yes, and it has a ton of recipes, and like I said, they teach how people ate in traditional cultures before Western society got a hold of our food.
Right, absolutely. And they do make note of that, how Western society has corrupted our food through commercialization and all kinds of other practices.
Okay, so with all of that said, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I've got my rye flour. This is my rye berries that I ground into flour using our mill. And actually what I'm going to do first, I have to get my starter out and put it in my bread bowl before I feed my starter. So what I'm going to do is get my recipe going. It has, in this book, it has the sourdough starter, and then it has the sourdough bread. And all it is, my little 1-year-old came to say hello.
Let's see, where is he?
Oh, here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Now, stay there. You can hold that, that's fine. I do half of the recipe just because I don't want to make 6 loaves at one time. I'd rather make 3 loaves at once. And this is the biggest bowl I have.
So what are we going to make today, though? What is this?
Okay, so I got my pizza pan, and I got 2 bread pans here. I definitely need, I'm going to make pizza tonight, so I need a pizza dough, and then I'm going to make our regular loaf of bread for toast and sandwiches, and then whatever is left over I'm going to make into some cinnamon rolls.
Cinnamon rolls, those are good too. We have those quite often around here, and the sourdough cinnamon rolls are awesome. And this is the bread, like I said, we make toast in the morning with it, sandwich bread or whatever else, and then pizza.
Okay, so I'm going to get my recipe started. This is, some of you may be familiar with the Real Salt brand. It's what we like to use. It's a unrefined sea salt, so it has the little granules of color in it. That's because it hasn't been bleached or processed.
Can't get it to focus. Nature's first sea salt. There we go. Yeah.
So this is the salt we like. The recipe calls,
you can buy this by the 25-pound bag, by the way.
Yeah. The recipe calls for a coarse grind. Now, I don't know if it would make any difference. I had this kosher salt on hand in the coarse grind kosher salt. It would probably be all right if you just had regular grind salt. Anyway, I do a heaping tablespoon because the recipe calls for 2.5 tablespoons coarse sea salt.
Okay.
So I'm halving the recipe. So there's that. Now the recipe next calls for 1/2 cup of water.
It's our Berkey filtered water there. There's Berkey over there.
Okay. And then all that's left after that is to do my starter. And those are all of the ingredients. So salt, water, starter, and then more flour to make the bread.
So basically all this ingredients is salt,
Flour, salt, and water.
Flour, salt, and water.
So I'm adding 4 cups. That was 1, 2, 3, and this is 4. Okay, so I'm not a super exact cook. I just kind of, and I'm adding a little bit extra because I didn't scrape my other.
Okay, and you're going to add the flour to that. While you're doing that, let me go ahead and just step in here real quick and show you. Right now, our temperature gauge outside, it's 17 degrees out there. It's 72 in here. And so with our starter, you need to keep it warm. And so we have a wood stove that's cooking right now, and it's right at 72 degrees, very comfortable in here. And outside, it's 17. And so we keep our starter by the wood stove here. Usually sits right there. We have some other pans and stuff, but we usually keep our starter right here next to the wood stove. And the wood stove is cranking to keep the place warm. And we have some wood over there that we use to keep it. This is our ash pan that we take the ash out by. And so you have to keep the starter warm. If you don't keep the starter warm, it's going to fail on you. And so we keep the starter here during the day. We just keep it covered up here with a t-shirt and keep it covered so it stays warm and it doesn't get too cold. Otherwise, the starter won't work when you need it to.
Yeah, you want it to be bubbling. You want it to have that sour smell, and then you know it's fine.
It won't do that if it gets cold. You gotta keep it warm.
Yeah, the crust on top is not a big deal. It just got a little bit dry on the top. So I got my starter in here. So now I'm going to feed my original starter before I forget to do that. And all I do is just add 1 cup of the rye flour every day. I have not tried it with a different flour. The Nourishing Traditions book says that the best flour for a starter is rye flour, so that's what we're doing. I'm not at the point where I want to experiment. So, okay, so I'm just going to stir that in. And then I'm going to add enough water to give it that runny, kind of battery runny consistency. Now,
most of you guys are actually living in houses where you have your heat regulated. It'd be easier for you to do a starter. We have made our own bread, not with this method before when we lived in the city, but we did grind our own bread quite a bit in years past. This is the first time we're doing sourdough, and so for you guys who live in the city and who have a regulated temperature in your house, it'd be easy for you to do a starter and just go ahead and start making sourdough bread instead of buying the bread that's in your stores that has been colored with all kinds of things that it's not real bread. Any of the breads that you buy in the store, no matter what the label says, is not real bread, folks. And so I would recommend highly that you go ahead and start making your own bread. Stop buying and just save money anyway. This is a lot cheaper to do. And, we're going to make pizza tonight. We're going to make cinnamon rolls, and we're going to make regular bread. And folks, this is a lot cheaper than buying bread at the store, and it's a lot healthier for you. So, all right, there's your starter. You've added the soupy, and that'll go back next to the wood stove, and you feed it every day.
Every day, I give it 1 cup of rye flour.
Except
Shabbat.
Shabbat, we don't add to it.
I've skipped Shabbat. And I was kind of wondering, I'm like, well, maybe I'm just going to kill my starter if I don't feed it for 1 day. But it was okay. And I figured, well, if this is the old method of making bread, then the children of Israel must have made their bread this way. You talk about throwing out the leaven. This is what they were talking about. It was their fermented starter. They didn't have yeast. And so they would have thrown out their fermented starter.
You mean they couldn't go down to Walmart and pick up instant yeast at the store?
They didn't have yeast. They didn't have baking powder. So what they had to make bread was their starter. So they would have thrown out this fermented starter is what they would have done. So I was thinking, well, if the children of Israel made their bread this way, and feeding my starter is technically for me working on Shabbat, I'm just going to leave my starter on Shabbat and see how it works out. And it was fine. It had a little bit more of that crust on top, but otherwise it was fine. So I'm just going to set it back over here and just lay my t-shirt over it. You can kind of see where it's, I should probably wash that t-shirt, but oh well, it's fine. Okay. So now all I've done here, this is my bread batter so far. So I'm going to set my rye aside, set my water aside. And this is the, you want to take a shot of the flour? This is the whole white wheat.
Whole white wheat.
Yeah, winter wheat, I'm sorry.
Winter wheat.
White winter wheat that we ground also.
This is organic wheat we purchased through a co-op when we were living back in, what was that? When we were living in St. Louis, it was a co-op that we were a part of.
It was the, I may think of it before the end of the video. But they ship to anywhere in the United States.
Anyway, there's probably a co-op in your area. If you want to get part of a co-op where you can get organic wheat, it's probably better to do that. And you can find it pretty cheap in different places and co-ops that are in your area. You just got to find them and join them. All right, listen, we're going to go ahead and pause it here, and we'll get back after we've created some of this goodness here, and we'll show you some of the end results. But you get the idea now, and I hope this will encourage you, this video will encourage you to go out and start your own starter and start making your own bread instead of buying your food at the store. Because, folks, that is 100% what we're trying to do here. Be self-sustaining, get off the grid, and not use the stores. I want to be able to grow and raise. That's why we're going to grow the amaranth. I want to be able to grow our own grain. I want to be able to grow our own food. I want to be able to rely 95% on what we grow here, meat and produce, leafy green vegetables and good vegetables, wholesome vegetables and fruits, rather than buy stuff at the store. So that's what we're doing here.
The only way that you can know what's in your food is if you make it yourself. That's the only way.
And
you go to the store and you look at labels and they say natural flavoring. You don't know what that natural flavoring is. It could come from an unclean animal.
Beaver butt.
It probably does come from an unclean animal.
It comes from beaver castor.
Right. Yeah, that's gross. So, the only way you're going to know what's in your food and that it's clean food is to make it yourself.
Right, exactly right. All right, we'll be back in a few minutes to check it out. Stay tuned. Okay, so we're back. We are back now, and we have a loaf of bread, a sourdough bread, some sourdough cinnamon rolls, and pizza for tonight's dinner. And so this was kneaded And
Yeah, you have to knead it for about 10 to 15 minutes. I do 10 minutes. I think 10 minutes is fine. I wouldn't say that you have to go to 15. But the dough is a lot stiffer to work with than regular yeast bread dough if you've ever worked with that. So it does take some muscle to get it kneaded, but I think it's worth it.
And so, what's all you put the fork marks?
Well, I didn't roll this out with a rolling pin. I just put a little bit in the middle. That's kind of, and then I mush it out with my fingers to the edge. And this is what I just kind of do like this to just get it all the way out to the edge. And then I poke it with a fork. You can see I've poked it a lot with a fork because if you don't do that, it's going to puff up and you're not going to have room to put your toppings.
Very cool.
So the holes make sure that it stays flat.
Very cool. Very cool. So, all right, now what?
Well, I'm going to carry it over to our little hearth here. And it's pretty warm down there. But the thing with sourdough is that you don't have to worry about checking it, making sure it's not rising out of its pan. This is just gonna stay here. I'm gonna cover it with a clean t-shirt. And it's
Sorry, the sun's in the way. You can't really see
yeah.
kind of there, but
This is gonna stay here all day. It's 9:30 in the morning right now. And I'll probably end up baking it about 3 o'clock, maybe 4 o'clock.
And so the heat from the stove makes it rise, basically.
Yeah, you want it to be warm. But again, it doesn't matter if it's a little less warm or a little more warm. It's not going to ruin your dough. That's the thing about sourdough. It's not going to ruin your dough because it's bacteria. It's not an unnatural yeast product that's going to be killed if it's too warm or not warm enough.
Right.
So if it's not as warm, then it's going to take longer to rise. If it's a little bit cooler, what did I just say? If it's more warm, if it's warmer, then it's going to rise quicker.
Right.
Okay, so if it's a little bit cooler, it's going to take longer to rise. But I can leave it here all day and not worry about it coming out of its pan. There.
Okay, so we're back now, and this is dinner. So pizza for dinner. This is some of the cinnamon rolls that survived our taste test earlier, and those will be for breakfast. And this is for the rest of the week. We'll be using this for sandwiches and toast, probably in the mornings and things like that. So, what do we got? Pizza. And so you.
Okay, so I just made some pizza sauce. I don't know, I didn't really use a recipe. I just used tomato sauce and some olive oil, and I put a bunch of whole cloves of garlic in so that they kind of got mushed around in the sauce as they cooked, and I just kind of simmered it on the top of the wood stove all afternoon. And in a few hours it was done. And so then I just spread it on my my crust, and what else did I do? Hamburger rocks we used for the meat.
Mm-hmm.
And then some mozzarella and mushrooms and tomatoes on top.
Awesome. And then the bread turned out, looks really good. And what are the slices for?
That's a good question. I don't really know.
Oh, okay. I thought it was for expansion or something.
You could probably do it without it. It's just an artisan bread thing. I don't know why they do it. You should Google that, honey. Yeah.
Well, there you go, folks. There is our bread for this afternoon, and our sourdough pizza, sourdough cinnamon rolls, what's left of them, and sourdough bread for the week. So there you go. You can do this too. All right. Hope you enjoyed it. There's my wife.
Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Say bye-bye.
He doesn't know.
Go home. Read your Bible. Thanks. Oh, wait. Say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.